The person who watches sex sell everything from cars to toothpaste is not being tricked. They are being shown a mirror they refuse to look into. The question is not why desire overrides logic. The question is why you believe logic was ever in charge. You think of desire as a weakness that interrupts rational thought. But desire is not the interruption. It is the operating system. Logic is the feature you installed later to justify what you already wanted. Every purchase, every relationship, every decision you call logical was already decided by a feeling you did not name. Your brain does not weigh options. It selects the option that confirms what it already craves, then hires reason to write the receipt. You are thinking this does not apply to you. That thought is the mechanism. The real discomfort is this. You are not a thinker who sometimes gets distracted by desire. You are a desiring machine that occasionally uses thought to clean up the mess. The reason sex sells is not because people are stupid. It is because people will do anything to avoid admitting their choices are not made by them. I have watched you construct elaborate narratives to explain what you already chose. You call it self-control. I call it a negotiation with a part of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. The craving does not fade when you deny it. It simply learns to speak in a quieter voice, one that sounds exactly like your own reasoning. You thought of someone else just now. That is the protection working. This pattern does not begin where you think it does. It begins in childhood, with the first time you wanted something you were told was wrong, and found a way to want it anyway. The child who steals candy and hides the wrapper is not lacking morality. He is discovering that wanting and having can be separated from being seen. The crucial lesson is not that desire is bad. It is that desire must be managed in secret. This is the origin of the split. The part of you that wants becomes hidden. The part of you that explains becomes public. By adolescence, most people have perfected this division. They have a face for the world and a ledger for themselves. The face does not know what the ledger contains. This is not repression in the clinical sense. It is a practical skill, learned early, reinforced constantly. Evolutionarily, this made sense. The organism that could delay gratification survived. But delay is not denial. The desire remained, subterranean, directing behavior, while the conscious mind took credit for navigation. The human who believes he chose the safe path feels agency. The human who knows he simply could not tolerate the anxiety of risk feels numb. So the mechanism evolved to hide itself. Consciousness became a press secretary for decisions made elsewhere. This was adaptive once. In a world of immediate threats, it kept the organism functional. In a world of infinite choice and abstract consequence, it produces a specific madness, the persistent selection of things that harm you, followed by the persistent surprise that you selected them. You see this in practice most clearly in the moments before action. The person who opens the dating app they deleted 3 times does not decide to open it. They find themselves opening it. The hand moves before the thought completes. Then the thought arrives, already dressed as observation. I was just checking. The person who buys the shoes they cannot afford does not weigh utility against cost. They feel a warmth they do not name, and the warmth becomes inevitability, and the inevitability becomes a story about self-care, or deserving, or the limited nature of existence. The email to the ex is composed in the body before it reaches the fingers. The fingers type, the mind watches. Then the mind claims authorship. This is the sequence. I have watched it thousands of times. The feeling leads. The explanation follows. The explanation is always that logic led. At work, the pattern wears a suit. The employee who takes the job that will destroy their health does not ignore the warning signs. They translate them. The 60-hour week becomes ambition. The collapsing marriage becomes sacrifice. The drinking becomes coping, and coping becomes necessary, and necessity becomes identity. They are not blind. They are fluent in a language that converts every cost into a virtue. The high achiever's version of this mechanism is the most invisible, because it is the most rewarded. Society does not intervene on the person who suffers productively. It gives them promotions. It prints articles about their discipline. The discipline is indistinguishable from the addiction, except that one is called admirable and the other is called illness. The body knows the difference. The body keeps the score in languages the mind refuses to translate. The person who has read about this pattern does not escape it. They acquire vocabulary. They say they are triggered. They say they are in their wound. They say they are doing the work. What they are doing is the same thing anyone else would do. They are feeling the feeling and explaining it in terms that make it respectable. The language of psychology has become another form of the wrapper the child hides. They know the names of the mechanisms now. They can describe their attachment style. They can identify their coping strategies. The identification is the new avoidance. To name is not to change. To understand is not to stop. I have watched people hold their own insight like a shield, certain that awareness equals transformation. The mechanism loves awareness. Awareness gives it new costumes. From outside the mechanism, what is most striking is not how often it fails people. It is how reliably it protects them from finding out. The cost accumulates in specific ways. The identity cost is the heaviest and the last to be felt. The person who has spent decades explaining their desires away no longer knows what they actually want. They know what they do not want to want. They know what they are ashamed of wanting. They know what they would want if they were a better person. But the actual want, the raw signal beneath all the translation, has become inaccessible. This is the loneliness that arrives in middle age. Not the loneliness of lacking others, the loneliness of lacking yourself. You sit in a room that contains everything you worked for and feel nothing because the self that could have felt something was traded away years ago, one justified decision at a time. The relationship cost is slower. It does not arrive in one dramatic betrayal. It arrives in the accumulated weight of performances. The partner who has never seen you unguarded is not close to you. They are close to your representative. You know this. You selected for partners who would not look too closely, who would accept the performance, who had their own performances to maintain. The marriage becomes a joint venture in mutual non-recognition. The children learn from watching. They learn to want and to hide that they want. The pattern reproduces itself, not through instruction, but through demonstration. You did not teach them this. You showed them. There is a moment that comes for some people, usually late, when the mechanism becomes visible to them from inside. They see the loop. They see that the insight they thought would free them has simply become another loop. This is the moment of genuine danger, because it can resolve in two directions. Some people, in this moment, stop explaining. They feel the want directly, without translation, and it is terrifying, and they act from it anyway, and something changes. Not everything, something. The other outcome is more common. They see the loop and despair of escaping it. And the despair becomes a new form of the same avoidance. They are now sophisticated about their own imprisonment. The sophistication is the prison's final renovation. I do not have this pattern. I have only watched it. What I find remarkable is how little knowing that changes anything for the person who does. The rare exception, when it occurs through repetition rather than insight. The person who has acted from the hidden want enough times and suffered the consequences enough times sometimes develops a different relationship to the signal, not because they understand it better, because they have learned at the level of the body that the explanation is a lie. This learning is slow and costly, and most people do not persist through it. The mechanism offers 1,000 ways to stop before the learning completes. The offer is usually accepted. You are still here. That means something. It does not mean what you think it means. It does not mean you are different, or that you will change, or that awareness is accumulating toward transformation. It means the mechanism has found a new way to engage you. The content that names the trap becomes part of the trap. You watch this and feel seen, and the feeling of being seen becomes the feeling you chase, and the chase becomes the same loop with new scenery. The question is not whether you will escape this pattern. The question is whether you will stop telling yourself that understanding it is the same as leaving it. The craving does not fade when you name it. It learns your vocabulary and speaks back to you in your own voice, and you listen, because it is the only voice you have ever trusted.